Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Tyler from the Keep Pounding podcast, and it's been a rough week with the Panthers against the Patriots. It was not a good game. Honestly, the worst game that we've had in a long time as far as I wouldn't say expectations. I would say a lot of Panther fans kind of monitor their expectations a little bit, but just how we fell apart against the Patriots has just raised a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, and I want to kind of I want to tell the truth a little bit. I want to tell my thoughts and what I believe is going on with the Panthers, what concerns I have about the Panthers moving forward, and where do we go from here? And there's still a lot of questions to be answered. There's still a lot of time, but just based on right now, where are we at? And honestly, there's a lot to blame. There's a lot of blame to go around. Before we get into it, actually, I'm in the Panthers den, as you can see. Usually I'm on the field, but I don't want to be near those players. So I got my IPA, got into the Panthers den here, and we're going to enjoy a cold one. Uh, got let me see, the hazy little thing IPA. I'm a huge IPA fan, so uh, I wanted to have a beer while I talk to you guys today. So, but like I said, there's a lot to blame. There's a lot of blame to go around, a lot of it. I'm not going to go into specifics on everybody, but I just want to do uh, who's the most to blame. Again, there's a lot to go around, but where's the root of the blame coming from? We, what I will say right now is you have David Tepper. Since he's been the owner of the team, we've been 37 wins, 83 losses. That's a 30% win record. Not good. But do I think he's the root of the cause of what's going on right now? I don't. I believe he's taken a step back. Now, has he made some poor decisions, and has a lot of his decisions in the past, are they still kind of cause and effect right now? Yes. But I would say, as far as since he hired Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, um, he's really taken a step back. He's been out of the limelight. Just recently, you saw David Newton have a video of David Tepper visibly upset, but I really can't blame David Tepper right now. Now we can blame like how poor of a franchise we have been since he's taken ownership, but as far as where we're at right now, I can't really put a lot of blame on David Tepper. If anything, he needs to step up and make some things happen, but um, not right now. But I do think he needs to make some things happen if things continue. Now, Dan Morgan, I'm not really, I don't really believe that Dan Morgan has a lot to do with this as well. Now, could he have made some different decisions? Sure. But again, I'm not going to say he's the root cause of what's going on here. You have Dan Morgan that his first year, he wanted to shore up the offensive line. So he got Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, and really shored up the interior of that offensive line to give Bryce time. And then last year, this past offseason, he picked up Treshaun Wharton, Bobby Brown III, Pat Jones, a few other players, and almost all of his draft picks since last year and this year, I think all but one has made the 53-man roster. Like, I like him as a GM. And again, I've said this in previous videos on the off season, where it takes more than one or two drafts and one or two off seasons to go from 1-15 to a consistent winner. You're gonna go through some hiccups. You're gonna go through some growing pains, and that's what we're doing right now. We're going through growing pains. We really are. Um, Now, I'll kind of get into my thoughts on a few people that I want to put some blame on. But to me, Dan Morgan, could he have? kn- How much do they really know about Josie Jewell? So just talking about the inside linebacker position, right? Inside linebacker position and the edge was a big concern going into the offseason. We got Christian Roseboom. You had Trevor Wallace. Josie Jewell was a steady, average linebacker, but I'm assuming they had no idea that he still had concussion issues, which is if they didn't, that's on them because you need to be able to see where they are medically, especially in the offseason when you're making moves. Because if I would assume if they knew that, they would have made another move at inside linebacker. So Christian Roseboom was their backup and their special teams guy, but now with Josie Jewell gone, you have your backup as your starting inside linebacker. And we are the worst in the league when it comes to inside linebacker run defense, the worst, which we all, I think any Panther fan, anyone that's paying attention knew that the inside linebacker position was the number one concern. Now, Trevor Wallace has had a couple of good, decent games, not last week, but the week before in Arizona, he had a solid game, but he's a little inconsistent. He's getting better, but he's a third round pick. He's his second year. You can't ask too much of him. Christian Roseboom, he wasn't brought in to be a starter. He was in here to be a special teams guy and a backup. So could have Dan Morgan went out and got another inside linebacker? Sure. I saw Eric Kendricks, I believe, that was on the market. He was released. That's someone maybe we could have used, but that's going to be a position that we are going to really attack in the offseason next year. In my opinion, it's going to be free agency for sure, and it's going to be the draft. But I want to get into a little bit on again. I want to before I kind of get into who's to blame. I want to give context here. I want to be fair to Dave Canales. Want to be fair, but we need to give some context. So this is a young team, and I'm not making any excuses, but this is a young team. Let's be truthful. This is a young team. This is we average our average age is 25. The league average is 26 and a half. And if you take away JJ Jansen and Andy Dalton, who doesn't really play, we're the sixth youngest team in the NFL. So, like I said, we're going through your growing pains, especially offensively. And going into the season, I thought, hey, if the defense can just be average and our offense can maintain with what we were doing the back half of last year, we're in a good place. But we are really going through some growing pains along the whole team, but more so on offense. I mean, you have T Mac, who's Bryce's most reliable target. He's struggling with some drops. So, like, there's a lot, and he's been an amazing rookie. He's been everything that we've wanted at our eighth overall pick. He's been great, but he's struggling a little bit too. That we're going to go through some growing pains when you have one of the youngest teams in the league, and you have a second year head coach that probably wasn't ready to be a head coach when we hired him. So when you add all these things together, there's going to be some growing pains. And I know Panther fans are going to be impatient, and rightfully so. I understand. I'm can be impatient, but I try to look at things through an honest lens. We have to. I don't want to say give this team grace because there needs to be progress and there's inconsistencies, but we have to sit back and see and give Canales the time and see, can he flip this around? Okay. I'm going to say I don't want, no matter if this team just goes to crap and we become one of the worst teams in the league, I'm not looking or wanting anybody to be fired midseason. There's nothing out of it. All it is means you quit and it's just a move and it means nothing. So whether you fires him, if you make a firing midseason or at the end of the season, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. So I'm not calling for anybody to be fired. Now, I'm calling for certain things to happen, which we'll get into a little bit, but I don't think it. I don't. I'm not advocating for anybody to be fired. I'll say that. But again, this is a young team. Okay, this is a young team. We're gonna go through some growing pains. We're gonna have some ups and downs, some peaks and valleys. Okay, but we can't have these drastic peaks and drastic valleys. There needs to be a little bit of a plateau and steady consistency. Now, I want to continue giving context. So there's a lot of injuries. especially at the offensive side of the ball. And injuries happen. I'm not making an excuse. Injuries happen. But you have Jalen Coker, who arguably is the second best wide receiver, in my opinion. He's the second best wide receiver on this team. You have Robert Hunt, Pro Bowl right guard, that's out. I'm not even counting Austin Corbett, who was your starting center. Caden Mays was the better player. So I'm not even putting Austin Corbett in here. Now, he would have been great for depth, but starting center, it was an upgrade. So I'm not even including that. You have Xavier Legette, and not only is he injured, but he's regressing. He's having the sophomore slump, and he's really in his head. Look, Xavier Legette is really in his head, and if we can the get him rolling, get him more confident, I do believe in his talent, but he's just stuck in his head, man. Like, and I feel bad for the guy. I know a lot of Panther fans are like hating on him, but this guy, he needs to know he's super talented. He has all the physical traits. Dude, we believe in you, but just go out and play confident. Like, even if you make a mistake, do it confidently. So that way at least you learn from it. Don't be like, oh well, I'm kind of in my head. Don't worry about what other people are saying, XL. Just play your game. Just go out there and have fun and think about what you're doing and nothing else. Don't worry about like, oh, if I mess up. Just play your game. But when you have XL playing the way he's playing and the injuries, along with Jalen Coker out, all of a sudden our very strong wide receiver group is getting weaker because you have Adam Thielen that we traded. Then you have Jalen Coker gone. Now XL is not playing well and he's out. This is becoming a really thin wide receiver group. And the only really good thing and silver lining out of this is you're going to have other players get opportunities. So you're going to get Jimmy Horn with an opportunity to play. And I'm really excited to see what he can do out there. I'm a little concerned because obviously he's being thrown into the Wolves. It looks like and seems like the coaching staff really isn't don't believe that he's ready, but they're forced to bring him out there. So hopefully he can prove the coaching staff wrong. The coaching staff has made plenty of mistakes from a personnel standpoint on who should start and who should not. So I'm excited to see what Jimmy Horn can do. You have Jatavian Sanders that is out. He was doing okay, and he definitely had a good game against Arizona, but he's out. And I do think I do like Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, like that tight end group is steady, but that's another playmaker that is out. DJ Wanham and Pat Jones. We really felt the weakness of the edge group from a depth perspective really bad against the Patriots. And we'll get into it in a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it here, but you have a lot of injuries. But again, let's not use this as an excuse as why we're playing poor. Every team deals with injuries, some a little bit more than others. But you have to learn to overcome these things. So there's context to what's going on, but it's not an excuse either. Now, I want to get into who's to blame. And coaching is a big one, if not the biggest one right now for me. So you have Dave Canales, obviously head coach, calling plays. So before we hired Dave Canales, he had only 1 year as offensive coordinator for the Bucks. Very limited experience. This was back in 2023, where he, if you look at the stats here, these were the Bucks stats when we picked him as our head coach. They were 23rd in total yards, 20th in points, 21st in yards per play, and 18th in passing yards. Passing touchdowns tied 8th. Third down conversion 10th, which isn't bad. Fourth down conversion 2nd, really good. Plays at 20 plus yards 6th, which is something that I do not understand. This was a big one for me when I was looking at the rankings. We're, I think, 31st in the league when it comes to explosive plays down the field passing. and then we had plays of 40 plus yards tied for third. Now I get we don't have a Mike Evans. Like I think T Mac can be that. We don't have a Chris Godwin, but is it to me? Is it the lack of? Is it just the stubbornness with not wanting to throw down the ball down the field, or is it he doesn't trust his quarterback? To me, as a fan, you call I want you to call the best play where I can look at the film and say, that was a really good scheme call. That was a great call, but there was no execution whatsoever. I'd rather see that. And I get that he's probably trying to minimize the probability of there being turnovers. But bro, we've had quite a few of them. Call to me, I just don't understand that there is a total disconnect offensively. They are extremely inconsistent offensively from down to down, from drive to drive. There's no consistency. You don't know what you're going to get each rep. You don't know what you're going to get. But when we were playing the Pats, that first drive was masterful. That first drive, the play calling was amazing. The execution was perfect. Everything was smooth. They're like, okay, like we are picking up where we left off, and we got all things going right because everything is going well, and that's when we play well, when everything is going well. But right when the momentum shifts, we can't get it back, no matter what. He cannot, whether it's the play calling, getting or getting his players to refocus, which is your job as the head coach and the play caller. He can't get it. He can't get his team to refocus, and he can't get back into a rhythm of play calling. He hasn't shown the capability at all making adjustments in game as well. I have not seen. I really haven't seen any second half adjustments. Now, people may say, "Oh, what about the Cardinals game?" Most of that was garbage time, man. And then when it was time for them to make a play to win the game, they couldn't do it. The defense clamped down and they couldn't move the ball at all. So coaching matters. And Dave Canales is starting to show me like because I'm trying to really figure it out. Is it again because it's we can spread the blame everywhere, but who is the root of this issue? What's the root of what we're doing wrong? And when you have the whole team that looks unprepared, it falls on the head coach. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. It falls on the head coach. Dave Canales has got to his seat is heating up. His seat is heating up. It's a little warm. Now, again, it's not just his fault. It's not. This guy too. Evero. All of a sudden, we had a great game against the Falcons, which again, my last video, I talked about how they really helped us win that game. We made some plays too defensively. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. The defense were making plays. But again, this roster is a decent, solid roster. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's a roster that should not have only 2 sacks on the season. They only have 2 sacks on the season. You got to be shitting me. You have Brian Burns for the New York Giants to have 5. We played 4 games and you only got 2 sacks, and one of them was your rookie that plays situationally? That is coaching. This dude, his scheme is I get that he runs the 3-4. And me personally, if you have we don't have our inside linebackers are trash. Our edge group is okay. It needs to improve. The 3-4, I'm not too concerned about. Like we can debate that 4-3 versus 3-4. They don't even really play the 3-4. They play nickel half the time. but he does not scheme any type of exotic blitzes or pressures against the opposing offense. I have not seen, besides the Lathan Ransom blitz, or sorry, no, the Trayvon Moehrig blitz that smacked Michael Penix in the face. I really haven't seen anything. Now pressures matter too, but we're low in pressures too, bro. This guy came off last year with the NFL record-setting bad defense. They allowed the most points allowed in a season. 31 points per game. He allowed 31 points per game. Which, by the way, since Dave Canales has been head coach, we've lost by an average of 16.8 points per game. It might have been 18.6. I can't remember, but pretty much more than 2 possessions. Everose also allowed last year, his defense allowed over 396 yards per game. Worst in the NFL. They also allowed 176 rushing yards per game. You heard me right. 176. Bro, you can't tell me that I get like that defense was trash, bro. It was trash. But so was the coach. And yes, like I was even advocating for this coach, you need to give him players. But there's a point where you got to be like, bro, we can't keep blaming other people for why you're not successful. And which, by the way, when again 176 yards per game, that's 35 yards more than the team that was the second worst, which is the Giants. It was by a large margin. So how this guy is still coaching is beyond me. I can't understand to a point why he's still here. But with Dave Canales saying, I want him to play more of my young players. As fans, you're like, why is Nick Scott starting over Lathan Ransom or Damani Richardson? We all saw how Nick Scott played last year. To me, it's almost like he's like, dude, fire me. Please fire me. I just want to get the hell out of here. That's what I feel like he's doing. But to me, he's not playing the best 11 on defense. To me, Lathan Ransom's playing better than Nick Scott. You got, but this was another thing, dude. And we'll just talk about this. As we talked about, DJ Wanham and Pat Jones were out against the Pats last week. What the hell has this dude done? For him to show you that he can start over Princely. Oh, he can set the edge, bro. He's really against the run. Did you guys watch the highlights? How much this guy was so out of position? This was the worst performance I saw out of any defensive player in a long time. And what I believe, this is what I truly believe. I know Dave Canales was asked by Mike K earlier today, what was the reasoning for the timing of releasing DJ Johnson? And he goes, well, we really took a really hard look at it. We looked at the other players and we're like, this was just the right time. I have 2 answers for that. One is he played like shit and he needed to be off the team. He's not even worth a death piece. This dude, I'm telling you right now, will not be picked up by any NFL player. I think he's done. But that was your film. You're not getting picked up. You might go to the XFL. And dude, what makes it worse is like we in the 2023 draft, which is probably one of the worst drafts we've had. I think now it's just Bryce Young and Chandler Zavala that are a part of that draft. Everybody else, Jonathan Mingo, was it Jamie Robinson? I think I'm forgetting another one, but none of them are on the team. And that was the last Scott Fitter draft. But what made this worse is I, I feel like every GM says this, and even Scott Fitter said this before the draft. You never want to panic, and you never want to feel like you have to reach for a position or a group or a player. This dude went from pick 93 to pick 80, giving up a third round and a fourth round to pick this guy. Now, do I think that Evero was pounding the table to move up to get this guy? No. But I think that this was the guy that was next on his list, which matters. You pounded for this guy. This is the guy you wanted at that pick. There were people that were saying that this guy wasn't even draftable, that he wasn't even worth the 7th round pick, and you picked this guy in the 3rd round. Pick 80, bro. But another thing that I really think that's going to happen, that why they did this now, besides him playing like crap, is they're like, okay, Evero, yeah, sure, you put whoever you want in there, but you don't control the roster. Dan Morgan does, and Dave Canales does. So we're to cut him, and you can't play him. That's what I really honestly think. I think there's a disconnect between Dave Canales and Evero. I don't think they align. I don't think I think Dan Morgan and Dave Canales are aligned, but Evero isn't a part of that. That's what it feels like to me. Because you can't tell me this is his 3rd year and this is how he's playing. Evero, you had this guy for 3 years, and this is the product that he puts on the field. And I get that Princey wasn't good when he against the run and when they played against the Pats, but he's a rookie. He has to. He needs to get bigger. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get better at the point of attack. But that's the guy I'd rather you give reps than this dude. And okay, let's just say that he is decent against the run. He didn't even do that, bro. We all, as Panther fans, we were like, "There's no way we're going to get pass rush from him." Okay, I accept that, but he can't even be in proper position at the run. This dude got faked out and just ate. He was so out of position almost every play, bro. It was horrible. It was horrible. So, see a DJ Johnson. The releasing DJ Johnson just made this team better. All right, what's up, Darkness? Okay, so let's pull this up here. All right, so I think it's more he doesn't trust Bryce considering his own inconsistent play, plus the wideouts dropping passes, which falls under coaching, just the player's execution failing. Yeah, I think, and that's what we're going to talk about here is Bryce Young. We're about to be brutally honest about Bryce Young here because I do think that's a part of that. I do think that he does not, and I think it's 100% true. Like he's showing it on the field that he cannot trust Bryce Young. Like it's evident with the play calling, and I think that's why Bryce gets upset because he's like, "Well, why are we calling this play? Like he wants to do this." But to me though is this is who your quarterback is, and let's say I'm Dave Canales, right? And I don't want to lose my job. I want to, your job is to win football games. But I guarantee you that that Dave Canales is still talking to David Tepper, even though it's kind of quiet. Which is, by the way, I would love a reporter to ask Dave Canales that, like, "Hey, do you do weekly meetings with David Tepper?" But if I'm Dave Canales, I'm going to tell Dan Morgan and David Tepper, like, I'm telling you right now, he can't do A, B, C, D. But I'm going to call the plays the proper plays, and if you can't execute, no, it's him, not me. So like I said, I think Dave's saying I've been advocating for rookies to start is his nice way of saying to media that he told Evero to do this or else. Evero did it one game, then went back to the he did. He did a one game, went back. Now, Nick Scorton played a what, 49, 50% of the plays, but that was because he had to because GJ Wanham and Pat Jones are out with injuries. You had Princely that with those two guys out, Princely only played like 23% of the snaps. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, no one's saying that they need to be starters, but they need to have proper playing time because if you're a developmental team, which they claim they are, you need to have the rookies use those reps. They need playing time to develop, not just in the practice. But I want to be honest about Bryce Young. Now, I'm gonna preface my comments by saying I'm gonna preface it by saying I think Bryce Young can be a starter in this league. I really think he can. But one of the things that a lot of people brought up and the Bryce truthers, the no matter what Bryce does, he can't do any wrong fan club. Just hate when you bring up his size. His size and arm talent an obvious obvious when he plays the game. And what I mean by that is when Bryce has a pocket that he can step up and throw, he can make those throws, right? We all know he can make those throws. But can he make that throw with a guy in his face? There's a huge drop off as far as how far he can throw the football when he steps up in the pocket and throws versus just his arm talent. He does not have arm talent that way. Now, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, those type of players, you can have a player right there and they just throw it off their back foot and it's still a good, solid, good velocity throw. You're not getting that with Bryce Young. So teams are saying, hey, if we can just just collapse that pocket a little bit, he can't step up. He can't throw down the field. And I think that's a big reason why Dave Canales isn't calling these plays. And what is his superpower? Right? What is his superpower? Coming as a prospect, it was all about the mental, right? Accuracy, good processor, quick decisions. But if he can't do what his superpower is, he's not a good quarterback because he doesn't have the size, he doesn't have the arm talent, he doesn't have the speed, he doesn't have those rare traits that Cam Newton did where things weren't perfect. He could use his athleticism to make a play. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray. There's players that, hey, if something breaks down, I have the superpower I can go to. And I the accuracy, this dude is 60% accurate. 60%. There when I'm studying film, this dude is missing open receivers. He's missing a 6'5" open wide receiver. And it's not like, oh, once every other game. It's like 2-3 times a game where it was and it cost them big, where it cost them a first down, cost them a touchdown that play against the Pats. That was a touchdown. So his superpower being very accurate, quick, fast, good processing, mobile within the pocket, he can't even do that on a consistent level. And everything has to be perfect for him. Everything does. He can't read defenses, and if he can, he's not able to adjust or audible out and then just wings with a call on the field. Yeah. He doesn't have a superpower or anything where if this breaks down, I can make a play. He doesn't have that. Everything has to be perfect for him. He cannot overcome adversity. Everything around him has to go right. We need a quarterback that can overcome something. a poor play call, poor blocking, injuries. You got to overcome something. It can't be perfect all the time. And if that's what it has to be in order for Bryce Young to be successful, he's not going to be successful here. Now, maybe he goes to a different situation where it's already set up where they have a solid offensive line, solid running game, better play caller, really good defense, and he's just a game manager. Sure. But he's not going to be successful if he cannot overcome adversity and he can't overcome a game where things happen. Right when we scored a touchdown and we had that missed field goal or the PAT, you could feel the momentum go down. And then you really felt the life being sucked out of this team when the punt return for a touchdown occurred. Now, to be fair, it's not all his fault. You have Dave Canales not he's not calling enough deep balls, and Bryce Young isn't connecting to a lot of deep balls either. But there needs to be more vertical plays down the field in order to for the opposing defense to be honest. Because if they're like, oh, he can't even throw, we're not worried about him throwing 20 plus yards, 15. They can box up, bro, and it makes that field a lot tighter. He has an inconsistent running game. They were decent against the Pats, but it didn't matter. This team, especially last year too, like they had a decent running game. And I get Robert Hunter's out, but Chandler Zavala isn't a scrub. It's going to be interesting to see who the right guard is going to be this year, this coming game. I do think it's going to be Cade Mays at right guard and Brady Christensen at center, or vice versa. But I think the latter is what's going to happen. It's not Bryce Young's fault that the special team is trash. When you have when special teams gives up 180 return yards, you're not winning any football games with that. The defense not being able to stop Drake May and that poor offense. The Pats had 2 starting offensive linemen out too, bro, and they still look really good. But again, Bryce Young through 4 games, 60% completion percentage, 5 total turnovers with 3 picks and 2 forced fumbles for a loss. So he has 5 total turnovers so far this year in 4 games. 6 total TDs, 3 picks, 763 passing yards, and 53 rushing yards. That's not good. I mean, this isn't in the 17 game. That's not good enough, bro. It's not good enough. And again, when your superpower is accuracy and your completion percentage is 60%, you're not going to win that many football games. And I'm tired of these fans, man, these Bryce Young lovers that, again, like just he can't do anything wrong. They love picking these time frames that show good stats for Bryce. Like I saw one the other day. The last 9 quarters, Bryce has had over 500 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. Okay, that's cute. That's real cute. That's a cute little stat. Let me also give you another stat. He's 1-4. 60% completion percentage. 5 total turnovers. Inconsistent. Can't throw the ball accurate down the field. Again, it's not all his fault, but he is a part of the blame. He is a part of the reason why we are struggling. And if things do not change, we'll see. Things have to. This is a big year. This is a big, big year for him. Now, who do I believe is the real reason why we are struggling? Who is it? Ultimately, I believe it's Dave Canales. He's the head coach. He's the play caller. There are times where, again, he just looks like he's over his head. He's not ready. I think he's learning on the fly. He hasn't shown he can out-scheme anybody, including first-year head coach Liam Cohen, who was his predecessor when he left the Bucks. Which, when he left the Bucks, that offense, instead of 20th that I showed you back in 2023 when Dave Canales was the head coach or the offensive coordinator for the Bucks. Liam Cohen made them third. He can't out scheme anybody. He can't make adjustments in game. The team as a whole is unprepared. That is the head coach. But Bryce Young is really close to number 2. Now, Bryce Young can be a starter in this league, like I said. He needs a lot of pieces to surround him for him to be successful, which is a red flag to me. He's extremely inconsistent, and he's honestly had more lows than highs since he's been here. But sooner or later, we can't keep blaming the players around him. We as a fan base need to be honest, and he needs to take some accountability with what's going on. And I'm not saying he isn't, but as a fan base, we need to be fair and say this guy deserves blame. But this duo here, this relationship, head coach and quarterback, it isn't working. And I don't know if it really is going to work. I really don't. But I will say if this continues and we keep playing the highs and the lows and this we're a 5-12 football team, 6-11, or if we're worse than that, they're both out of here next year. I don't see any scenario where if there isn't any sign of improving and getting to over the hump, you got to move on. Now, if there is a sign that there's improvement and there's growth, they both stay. Now, let's just say that and there's I'm gonna throw out a couple scenarios. If this continues, they're both gone. But if Dave Canales is able to turn things around, and it's just clear that Bryce Young is limiting is the main reason why they can't go over the hump, he's gone. Dave Canales stays, and then that is what is interesting as far as what do they do at quarterback. And do I think it's a rookie? No, I don't. Dave Canales has always been good at developing quarterbacks that are veterans, not rookies. His track record is so Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. So that is a possibility. But if we lose against the Dolphins this Sunday, bro, the season's over. It's over. The season is over, and so are head coach and quarterback. If you lose against the Miami Dolphins, they have a pretty decent running game. Their passing game was already horrible. Now you take away Tyreek Hill, it's even worse. Jalen Waddle isn't really doing well at all. Their defense, especially their run defense, is trash. And if we can't run the ball against them and we just struggle and we get beat, especially if we get beat somewhat embarrassingly, I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I really think there will be a firing. Depending on the reason why we lost. It could be an Evero firing. It could be a Dave Canales firing. I wouldn't be surprised. If we look unprepared as a whole going into the Dolphins game, and it's just a big flop at home, something's happening. And I would not be surprised if Dave Canales is let go if that is what happens. Now, again, do I want that to happen? No, because I want it. If we're going to play like trash, I want them to play like that the whole season to prove to all Panther Nation that we need to move on. But again, there's still questions to be answered about this football team. There's still plenty of games to play. But right now, it's not looking good, and they need to make changes fast. The players need to do better from an execution standpoint, and the coaches need to do better from a scheme and personnel standpoint. Play the best 11 players. And to be honest with you, we'd already talked about Evero not playing some of the better players, the top 11 players. But is Dave Canales' a little blame there too? Why in the blue hell did Brady Christensen not play right guard when Chandler Zavala went down? I get that he can, maybe they wanted him to be the backup center. Bro, let the guy play freaking right guard. But Dave Canales needs to prove that he can out scheme and set his team up to be successful. Now, if he sets them up to be successful and calls a good game, but they just can't execute, that's okay. Now we know it's who's to blame. But don't modify your play calling because you think that someone can't get it done. If you really don't think he can get it done, then we need to move on from him next year. But give him an opportunity. We saw how Bryce Young played the back half of last year when you took off the chains, bro. Stop limiting him. Let him play, and if he can't get it done, he can't get it done, and we move on. But you need to call the proper plays and let the players execute. If they can't execute, figure out who they are, get rid of them, move on. He needs what Mahomes came into, a Chiefs team that was already established and ready to be led by a QB. Yeah, I think a lot of teams do that. The Giants right now, I would have kept Russell Wilson to let Jackson Dart learn a little bit more. Learn, maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 games into the season. But yeah, like I mentioned, like this is we're not going to get the best coach. Like if we fire Dave Canales, we're not going to get the top guy unless and we try to get Ben Johnson. We threw the bag at him and he said no. He didn't want to play for us or he didn't want to coach for us. David Tepper's in a position where he has to find the guy that is a year away from being the best. And that's why they got Dave Canales. I don't think they'll let him pick a rookie quarterback. I think they're going to have him pick a vet. Maybe they still draft a rookie, unless they're picking like top 3, 4, or 5. Which, if we are, I think Dave Canales and Bryce Young are out if we're picking the top 5. But even then, if we're picking the top 5 and Dave Canales is gone and Bryce Young is gone, I don't want us to pick a quarterback. We still have a lot of holes. And now, again, there's still a lot of questions to be answered, but there's still so many holes on this team. I just believe in the draft. You pick the best player available. Now, if we play really well down the stretch and it's just so evident that receivers are getting open, running game as well is going well, and it's just a quarterback problem, then yeah. But right now, it doesn't seem like it's just a quarterback problem. We have, we need some more depth at wide receiver. We definitely need starters and depth at inside linebacker. We need more depth at edge. We could use another corner. We definitely can use a depth at offensive line and defensive line. But, bro, this is a tough year so far. But that's why I'm on the Panthers den. I'm not out on the field. I don't want to be near anybody. I just want to be here drinking beer and having a good time. So, but that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Let me know who you think is to blame in order. Who would you say from the most to blame to least? What's your order of why we are where we're at? So, but thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. You guys have a great night, great day, and I'll see you next time. Keep pounding.